Good morning, everyone. This is Elio Piedra, and you are watching Morning Coffee with Elio. I would love to start with this quote. Behind every powerful brand, there is a powerful vision. Yes. Today, we have the opportunity to talk with the CEO and founder of PHOS Creative, an award-winning company that has a passion for creating leaders worth following. Here with us is my good friend, the great Brandon West, and he will join us after this. Get up, baby, this morning. This is Elio Piedra. Another morning means another coffee because this is Morning Coffee with Elio. This is going to be a great day. We have a fantastic guest. And the wait is over. How you doing this morning?
Oh man, so good. I love that video as well, Elio. I mean that look that you get when you walk into the studio, just that little look at the camera there. I mean, that is a power move, Elio. You look good, bro.
I got you there, right? I got you there.
I was ready, bro. I was ready at that shot right there.
You are so awesome, brother. I feel very honored and blessed, for having you this morning with us, with me and our morning coffee community that, we've been waiting for you for a while. We've been promoting and, people asking, when is Brandon coming? Well, here we go. Here we go. I would
Elio,
like to.
it's an honor, man. It's an honor.
Honor is all mine. Brandon, you founded PHOS out of your own office. That is awesome. And the rest, basically, it is history. Tell us more about the very beginning of PHOS Creative.
Here's the irony of a story that begins with me beginning this business in my home office. Like, look where I am right now. It's like I'm literally back to where I once was.
Yes.
I find extremely ironic. The business obviously is not what it once was, but I did start in my home office. My wife and I, we've been in Gainesville since we started college. My wife and I are high school sweethearts from
Nice.
Lake Brantley High School down in the Orlando area. And we moved up here together. We got married when we were 19 years old. I started PHOS when I was 26 after a 4-year teaching stint in my life where I taught Greek and Latin language. I know Spanish as well, so I'm quadrilingual. But your Spanish is much better than mine. When we started, it was just me, and the first person I ever tried to hire was my best friend at the time. And he was going to move to Atlanta, and I did not want him in Atlanta. I wanted him here. So I said, hey, dude, what if I pay you a very, very small salary and you stay here? And he agreed to that, and basically he and I started the business. I got to see him about 6 months ago. I flew up to Massachusetts where he lives now and got to have dinner with him and his wife, and it was an awesome time just to remember everything that we did, and I just took some time to honor him and say, hey, man, everything that you see, everything that we celebrate as a team, you helped me start. And since then, we've grown. We have 16, 17 people on the team now. All of those people are currently working remotely from their home offices as well. And we're learning how to do remote work super well as a team, and that's how we got to where we are now.
That is awesome. And when did you personally get involved with marketing, and how did it all start?
I think my marketing journey actually began just with designing things. When I was a student at the University of Florida, go Gators, I had a position at the through academic technology in one of the longest named businesses I've ever heard of in my life. It was called the Center for Instructional Technology and Training, CITT. And
Okay.
it had a like a computer lab out in the middle where professors could come and they would work on their dissertations, and I'd help them with video or help them with PowerPoint or help them with their Microsoft Word. Or at one point somebody was yawning. They put up their arms and their elbow came down and it cracked their USB drive in half with their 250-page dissertation. So trying to figure out how I can help them recover some of that info. And it was a great time to learn design, learn computers, learn technology, and learn how to care for people. Almost got fired twice for being super, super helpful to people. That wasn't my job to consult with people. So when I did that, it was a problem. But where it came from was a passion for customer service and customer experience.
But how that happened? How that happened? What was the problem? We wanna
I was asked.
know.
I was asked, do not spend time working with this person to consult with them on this project that they're working on. Work the lab, help with computers, help with video, and I wanted to help people. And that's I wasn't allowed to.
Let me see if I am understanding well. You were asked not to go the extra mile. Oh, wow.
This is, but the beauty of moments like that, Elio, is that's where somebody's culture in a business comes from. All those like terrible experiences that you've had in the past, they are the things that persuade you to say either one, this is exactly how I will run my business because when people run it this way, I think it's amazing, or this is why I'll never run my business this way because it's terrible. I remember when I was one of my very first ever jobs was, of course, bagging at Publix. Publix is a great company, but I remember that people who would smoke cigarettes, they would give 15-minute breaks to twice a day. Like, hey, if you need a smoke break, you get to go outside and you get to smoke. While everybody else is inside working, you can go outside and I'll pay you to smoke your cigarette. And so I'm like thinking in my mind, I'm like, so if I choose to do something that's harmful to my own body, you will let me take 2 15-minute breaks. And I decided, if I ever have a business, I will never let people do that. Instead, I will pay everyone 15 minutes to go and do something that's healthy. So PHOS has, we encourage people to take twice a day, 15-minute breaks where they go outside, and we pay them for an extra half an hour a day just to go and do something healthy with their body. Walk around, don't be on their phone, drink a lot of water, go for a little jog, do some stretching.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So you actually you have converted that bad experience into a great one, a better one, healthier one for your employees. That is fantastic. You are awesome.
That's what we do. That's what we do. Be a good listener, be a good learner. We celebrate good and bad customer experiences at PHOS. So we'll tell each other stories of, man, this was great. I walked into this place. They treated me so awesome. Wouldn't it be cool if we did that? Or, hey, I walked into this place. It was terrible. It was like, oh, okay, make sure we never do that as a company.
Exactly.
Learning from your experiences, super important part of leadership.
I am wondering who was your very first client and how that happened, and when did you meet them?
Well, this is kind of one of those like passion projects that turns into a business. So for me, I think probably my first projects ever were the ones that I did for this business. I think the first person I ever built something for was probably my church. Probably built them a free website, and then I charged somebody else $300 for a website, and then I realized this could be a business. I looked it up, man, just for you. It looks like I found that May 2012, I sent someone my very first official invoice for $200 to build them a logo. That was my first ever invoice that went out.
And what company was this one again?
This was an orthodontist down in Wellington, Florida. And they were a friend. You know, that's where a lot of this starts. When it's a passion project, when it's a hobby, one of the first things that happens is your friends who are business owners say, hey, will you do this for me? Then you get to tell those stories and work with new clients.
Awesome. And well, obviously, what you do has changed since you started. So what exactly do you guys do now? And what industries do you work with? And what areas do you serve?
Yeah. Yeah, when we started, it was just design. I was designing stuff, and I was very happy with that. And our clients, my clients at the time were very happy with that as well. But very quickly, the things we designed, people would come back and they'd say, I really love this, but I'm not sure it's doing anything for my business. And so we quickly pivoted to become that marketing agency. We call ourselves now, after over 7 years now, we call ourselves a strategic digital marketing agency. There's 4 things that we do for clients. We provide strategic consulting, help people to figure out who they are, what's their message, what's their target audience, what should be their budgets, customer acquisition costs, lifetime value analysis, helping people to figure out their return on investment. Second thing that we do is branding, brand strategy. So once we know that, how do we create a brand and a market position around that strategic plan? 3, we build websites. So that could be a single page website for an app company or a 10,000 product e-commerce company for a retail store. And then the 4th thing we do is digital marketing. And that's where the largest percentage of our revenue comes from. It's a client that says, hey, you're either a small part of my marketing team, or they say, hey, you're the whole part. You're the people who are going to make us successful online. You go and be the strategist and the implementer and make it happen. As far as who we serve, it's so interesting. I don't know if it's just my industry, but of all the consulting that I've received for PHOS in the past few years, one of the most common critiques that people have had of our strategic plan is, why don't you industry specialize? Why don't you just choose one industry or 2 industries and just go after only those businesses? And 2020 has been a very interesting year for vertically specialized marketing agencies. The ones that have been like, oh, we're doing gangbusters serving only travel companies. They went broke this year. They had to fire all their employees overnight. The ones who were like, yeah, all we do is health-related marketing for retirement communities. They're not marketing right now. I'm grateful that we didn't specialize ourselves. Here, over the past few years, we did decide this. Who we love working with is small and mid-sized businesses. Somebody who comes in and I say like, hey, can I get a copy of your brand style guide? And they're like, what's that? Versus a company that walks in, drops like an 800-page manual on my desk and says like, hey, will you make us a business card? Like that's not as fun as us walking into a business that really doesn't get branding and helping them to figure that out. That's who we love working with. And we do that all over the US. We work with clients in 12 of the 15 United States right now.
Wow. You just mentioned, Brandon, something that I never heard that from anybody before. And I want you to expand a little more on this. Lifetime value analysis.
Mm.
What is that?
It is a super, super helpful metric when it comes to marketing. When you look at your clients, you need to know how much money they make you on average over the life of their contract. So let's say I'm working with an entertainment company, and for a wedding, they typically charge $4,000 for an entertainment package for a wedding. But maybe 50% of those people also hire them for a birthday party later on, and they makes them another $1,500. So we would say $4,000 plus 50% of them doing that extra, their lifetime value of a client is actually $4,750. So when you look at customer acquisition costs, how much does it cost you to bring on a new client? You're trying to look at that lifetime value of the client to determine whether or not your acquisition costs are smart. So this is especially important for people who have recurring revenue, where an average client, say, makes them $500 a month, but they stay on for an average of 2 years. When you're like, I would never pay $500 for a customer acquisition cost, maybe you would, given how long they stay on with you. We're looking at customer acquisition costs not against a monthly value of cost, but on the return of investment based on the lifetime value of the client. Very, very helpful metric.
That is fantastic. That is awesome. I really appreciate you for sharing that with us and with me, because actually I kind of like knew the concept, but how you are explaining it right now, right? I never thought of that term in that way. So that's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about Brandon West as a speaker. Let's talk about your speaker career because you are also all over the place, speaking not only at church but speaking on big conference, global events. Talk to me about your speaker career.
I've been really, really fortunate over the years to get connected with people who have been very gracious to give me opportunities to share what I've learned. And I would just say this, right? Like, what is leadership? What is speaking? It's being willing to share everything that you've received. And that's been my commitment over time on any stage that I'm a part of. You are serving whenever you're on stage. You are serving whenever you are leading. So for me, it started at church, and I went into a teaching career. So I taught a lot every single day to a lot of students. And then I joined Business Networking International. They taught me how to speak in front of business people about business. Since I started a speaking career, I've spoken at over 30 different organizations. Some of those paid, some of those not paid. Some of my favorite ones are ones you just showed some pictures for. I've been super blessed to be involved in the leadership community over the past 7 years at PHOS. I've been partnered with people that you're friends with, or maybe even had on the show at this point. Jill Nash from Advantage Media Promotions, an incredible leader with an incredible heart for leadership, an incredible heart for our city, an incredible heart for events. I've been on stage. I was just actually reflecting on this morning. One of the men who's affected me most in my life is a man named Ravi Zacharias. He's a Christian who grew up Indian, grew up Muslim. He's an Indian, and he passed away this year.
Oh wow, man.
A man who's had like a huge impact on my life. And 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to be a part of a crew that brought him to Gainesville. We filled up the O'Connell Center, the Exact Tech Arena, with 8,500 people. And I got to be on stage that evening in front of almost 9,000 people to produce a show that evening that would be seen by 150,000 people within 5 days of it going out. So just to know that I got to be a part of something with somebody who meant so much to me only a few years before he passed away was pretty awesome. I got to be the Master of Ceremonies for TEDx Gainesville. A cool story, just this year, I was speaking to one of the executive leaders at C12, which is a national Christian peer advisory group. I joined them over a year ago, life-changing for me. I had a really cool opportunity to meet with him on the phone about doing some work for C12 Corporate. And I just threw this out to him. I said, hey, I know you guys have a national conference every year. I would love if one day you had the opportunity for me to be the Master of Ceremonies. And he's like, all right, well, 2021 is taken. They only do it every 2 years. 2021's taken. Maybe you could have 2023. I'm 32 years old. I'm looking at 2023. I'm like, I'll be 100 years old in 2023. Holy crap. Like, that's a long time away. But you know what? That sounds really cool. I'd love to talk about it. And I just left it open. Well, a few months later, he calls me. I actually emails me out of nowhere, and he says, hey, we need to talk on the phone. I have a really cool opportunity. And so I call him immediately. I'm like, dude, you better live up to this email. I don't know what you got going on, but that's a serious email. What's going on? And he said, look, man, the guy who I thought was going to be the Master of Ceremonies for 2021 can't do it. You're the guy if you want it. And I'm like shaking on the phone. I'm so excited. And he says, and I said, yeah, man, that'd be a joy. I'd love to do that. So next year I'll be the Master of Ceremonies for C12's national conference down in Orlando at the Hyatt Regency. Thousands of Christ-centered business owners. It's going to be an absolute blast.
That's awesome, brother. That is awesome.
So, lesson there, always ask. Always ask.
Always ask. Yes. You don't ask for it, you don't get it.
Nope.
So anything behind the scenes that you can give us a sneak peek into? Any new talks that you are crafting now for the future?
Yeah, there's two things I'm super excited about right now. I think we talk about three things as a primary part of every company's strategic plan. What is their vision, meaning where do they want to go? What is their mission? What is their passion, their reason for existing, their why? And then three, their core values. How do you define behaviors for a company that set the standard for what a culture could be? Well, we talk a lot about mission and values. I think people love talking about mission and values. But I have found that creating a vision for a company is much more difficult than people realize. For me, visioneering, as I call it, creating a vision, visioneering is super difficult because the future is so infinite. You could write an infinity of vision statements for any business. And with that many options in front of you, you're like, how do I figure it out? Now, add that challenge of how do I figure out what the future of my company is inside of 2020, where you have very little control, almost no knowledge over what the future is going to be like, what the economy is going to be like. Predictions and timelines are so difficult to set. How do you visioneer? How do you create vision in a future that you can't see, in a world that you can't control? I'm writing a talk about that right now, and I'm super excited. The second thing I'm working on is a book. We'll see how long it takes me to produce this, but I'm working on a book called Redefining Success. And that's just the idea that success, especially, tie this to the concept of visioneering. If you set a vision for your company and you don't hit that vision, you can't make it happen, then by all definitions, like, you are a failure. Your company is a failure. That's not how I define success. That's not how successful people define success. They define it in a different way. Success for me means being faithful with what I'm given, regardless of the outcome that happens. And I'm writing a book about that concept. I'm writing it not only with my pen, but with my life. And I'm learning a lot, and I'm really excited about that.
Wow, man, that is priceless what you just shared with me. Thank you so much. What is
Yeah,
the
man.
name of the book? What is the name of the book, and when the book is coming out, so we can support you with that?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. As soon as I have those details, I will get them to you. Most
Awesome.
likely, the working title right now is Redefining Success.
I love that, and I am glad you mentioned that, because I was about to ask you for your definition of success, but you just said it. So let me ask you: we see you leading so many different areas. You know, we see you leading your team at PHOS, of course, and leading in the business community, but you are also involved with the church community as well, and nonprofit organizations within our community. So tell us a little more about your involvement with these communities, different communities.
Yeah, a balanced life involves being involved in a lot of different things. And for me, I believe that above every part of my life and my leadership sits one primary goal above everything else. And I just actually read it this morning. Let's see if I can read you this here. For the past 6 years, I text a guy in my life every single morning a verse that I've read from my Bible study. And I texted him this from Romans 9:17. It says this: "For this very purpose," this is God talking, "for this very purpose I've raised you up, that I might show my power in you, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth." So I'm super involved in the church community. Why? Because I believe that the name of Jesus Christ is worth being made known among the nations. I've been leading worship for 15, 16, 17 years now. I have led on stage hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. It's so interesting how being involved in the community will teach you so much about leadership. Like, I have exponentially expanded my leadership experience and opportunities by serving other groups and other people. And so the question is, where can you get involved that would help you multiply your leadership by getting involved in other organizations than the one that you work in? Obviously, at my church, Abundant Grace, I'm involved in a group called Bridge City Worship, a pretty awesome group that started about a year and a half ago that just said, hey, look, we got 100+ worship leaders at different churches all throughout Gainesville. What if we all came together once a month and we wrote worship songs together as the United Collaborative Church of Gainesville, and then sang those songs together in our churches? So I've been a musician for about as long as I've been a Christian, and it's awesome to be a part of things like that. I'm also a part of Created Gainesville. This is a 501c3, a nonprofit whose mission is to reach and restore lives of women who've been trafficked here in our city.
Wow.
Sex trafficking, Florida is the #3 largest state in the entire United States, with the number of cases of sex trafficking victims per county. So Florida's #3 in the entire United States. When I first heard that and that sex trafficking was happening in Gainesville, I was like, oh, sex trafficking like in Asia. Yeah, that's terrible. We should do something about that. No, it's happening here. Oh, you mean like in the United States? Like, oh, yeah. New York's a terrible place. No. In Gainesville. I'm like, what are you talking about? Where's this happening? No way. And so it's been an amazing journey for me to join with Created. Their vision over the next 3 years is to raise enough money to build a residential house so that women can get directly out of trafficking into a safe place for them to live. So Created Gainesville, if you haven't heard of them, I would highly recommend your involvement and consideration of them as an organization. Incredible.
I was about to ask you, how can I personally be more involved? How can Morning Coffee and everything that I do, my sponsors, everybody get more involved with that and support you and support these organizations? We have like a wonderful sponsor family that we are blessed with, and they are also involved with a lot of the events and a lot of the causes and non-profit organizations that you are mentioning. So absolutely. After the show, I would love to touch base with you about how we can get more involved in everything. We're always I gotta tell you before I jump into my next question, I have so much respect, for you, and I admire you, everything that you do for our community. That I am so honored to have you here today, so I can keep learning, from you.
I would say two things here. I think one of the things that I've realized so much in my involvement over the past 2 years is that none of us should feel ashamed for focusing on one thing and saying, I will give all my attention to this one thing. I think when we talk about getting involved in local or global efforts, we're like, for me to be faithfully investing myself into those global efforts, I have to be involved with like 15 different organizations. For me, I've said, you know what? I'm going to tie my heart to one thing that breaks my heart, and I'm going to help out as much as I can. We give to a couple different organizations, but I've chosen one, and I've said I'm going to give myself as wholly as I can to this one cause. And so for people who want to get involved, I just want to encourage you, choose something, choose one thing, invest yourself heavily there, and you'll see fruit in your leadership, in your impact, in your joy, just from serving.
That happened to me with the great. We shared the cure with the Grace Foundation. The Grace Foundation. I don't know if you heard of them, but the founder is my friend Dr. Michael Lausardo. When he said that story, he told me that story. I gotta tell you, man, I have tears and everything, about how he created that amazing organization. And then I was like, this is the one. It's like when God sent you a mission and placed somebody in front of you and said, Elliot, that's the one. That's the one. I was about to go to a gala. Let me tell you something. Now that we're talking about serving, we raised almost $250,000 in one night at Hilton to build hospitals for kids that are fighting cancer in Dominican Republic, in Brazil, and Colombia. People don't know that, but I gotta tell you, and I am getting very kind of like excited here because we did it, and we couldn't go because of COVID-19, but we said, you know what, that's okay. The hospital, they're building the hospital. They're still working on it. And eventually we're gonna go and we're gonna meet and hug these kids and know them because at some point I just met them, through videos and pictures. But I agree with you, brother. I mean, serving and finding your purpose in life, it is a super powerful thing. And I encourage you, if you're watching right now, that you need to find that why, that reason, and make your contribution. And this reminds me, Les Brown said, we should be ashamed to leave this world, because at the end of the day, we're all gonna check out, right? we're gonna check out, but we should be ashamed to leave this world without have made a major contribution to humankind. And those words, I will never forget that.
Well, I can't believe I just heard this quote recently. Um, I was on a webinar talking about race, and I think that this is so applicable not only to race and racism and equality, but also to us getting involved in issues like this. This is a quote by a woman named Maha Angelou. She said this: "Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better."
That's awesome, brother. That's fantastic. I love it. That's awesome. I wanted to ask you. PHOS has been awarded multiple times and multiple years in a row. How does it feel when you look back and see that home office in the distance? Well, right now you're closer. That's so funny.
I remember the first time that I ever saw, like even learned about the Gator 100, right? The Gator 100 is the top 100 fastest growing Gator-led businesses in the entire world. And I remember somebody in Gainesville won the award, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. How many years is it going to take us to do that? Could we ever do that? I'm not sure we could ever do that. Those businesses are incredible. And then for the past 2 years, we've ranked in the Gator 100, the highest in our category within our city. And it's been an incredible moment to celebrate with great leaders like Kevin Spellacy here from Spellacy Engineering, awesome. People who I look up to and admire as leaders. And then over the past 2 years, we've also won the Business of the Year award. We won Tech Company of the Year. That was a great, amazing award. And then we won Employer of the Year. That was life-changing for me to say, hey, the business that you've created is the best place to work within our region. There were men and women on that list, leaders of local businesses that have been my mentors since I started. Like I steal all their good ideas and I put them into my company. Joe Cerulli from Gainesville Health and Fitness was there. Rich Blazer from Infinite Energy was on that list for Employer of the Year. When I got up there, I had nothing to say. A very short speech, and then I got down and I went and I found Rich Blazer and I gave him a big hug. And I said, thank you for teaching me over these years. This award is half yours for everything that he had taught us. So those kind of awards are very humbling, and they just remind me that I'm not in control of my success.
That's awesome. So this year has been, as you already mentioned, very interesting. I mean, your company has changed a ton, all right? You have been changing and developing, but this year, all right, we all businesses have been forced to change even more. Okay, so what have you learned during this pandemic in your life? I will say about leadership.
This has been an incalculable growth period for me in my life.
Say that again. Say that again.
This has been an incalculable growth period for me in my life. I can't calculate the amount that the past 6 months I have grown in. It's probably been one of the strongest growth periods of my entire life. You know, when things started to shut down and get really scary, I think everybody went into the same mindset of like, holy crap, like deer in the headlights. What are we going to do? I'm not sure. Try and look positive. Smile and wave, boys. Business is great. It took me about 3 weeks to honestly get into any version of a healthy mindset around this. It took me 3 weeks just to get to that place. Where I finally got to was inspired by Toyota. My business coach says that Toyota is the best run company in the history of companies ever. He's having me read through a book right now called The Toyota Way. And Toyota is interesting. According to my business coach, what happens in a downturn or in an economic collapse is that Toyota shuts down their facilities and they start working internally to figure out how they're going to better their companies. All the other companies, they don't do that. They're fighting through the the downturn. They're like, we got to keep pushing business, keep pushing business, keep pushing business. And they're struggling. Whereas Toyota is just like, shut down, go internal, get better. And they focus on 3 words: leaner, meaner, and stronger. How can they grow in those 3 ways? Leaner, meaner, stronger. So I said, hey guys, as a team, I put this in front of my team at the end of Q1. We were casting vision for our second quarter of the year. Here's what I told them. I said, our core objective during this time is to not waste this pandemic by focusing on growing leaner, meaner, and stronger, and emerging on the other side of this time better than we were before. And we sat down and we focused on what's our priorities during the season. We came up with 5 things: budgeting, savings, leads, remote culture, and creativity. And for the next quarter, that's all we went after. And I started keeping notes in my journal of all the ways that we had grown leaner, meaner, and stronger. And by the end of a single quarter, I had 13 super powerful, positive things that we had done as an organization to grow leaner, meaner, and stronger. I'm really thankful. A year ago, I put into my quarterly vision meetings with my team this quote, and I've been showing it to them once a quarter. It's a quote by Gary Hamel, a management subject matter expert from this century. He said that the definition of innovative leadership is the ability to be entirely committed to a plan of action while entirely tentative should new information arise simultaneously. That's where we've been at. You want to know what visioneering is all about? It's that. It's saying, hey, look, I'm super committed to this plan unless something changes, and then I'll let you know.
Wow. That is fantastic. Actually, I was about to ask you, what is the most impactful thing that you have done in your leadership at PHOS in the past few years?
We have always been really good at strategic planning as a company. Regular all-in team meetings that make sure everybody's on the same page and we're all working towards some larger strategic objective. At the beginning of last year, I decided that I wanted to make it fresh, come up with a new way of managing our strategic plan. So I read John Doerr's book on OKRs, objectives and key results. And for the first quarter of last year, that's what we ran. We ran OKRs. And it was helpful. It was fresh. And it made us think in different ways. But after a quarter of doing it, I was like, this is not us. It just doesn't fit our culture. And my business coach had me read a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. And it usually takes me a month, maybe 6 to 8 weeks to finish a book, depending on how good it was. I ate that book. I read it in 5 days, and every single page, I'm like, we need that, we need that, we need that.
Wow.
What that book gave us was what he refers to as the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS. And EOS is this full model for managing a business's strategic plan. And we've implemented EOS purely at PHOS in the past year, and it has been completely revolutionary to our company. The amount of vision and clarity and traction and movement and accountability and key performance indicators has been absolutely fundamentally life-changing for myself and for PHOS. So I would highly recommend that book.
Could you please mention the name of the book again?
Yeah, the book is called Traction. Traction by Gino Wickman. It has a black and orange cover. There's another blue Traction book out there. It's not that. Black and Orange by Gino Wickman. It was so good. We gave it out as our client gift at the end of the year. So every single client at the end of last year got a copy of Traction. And it was cool. The people that actually sat down and read it came back and said, this has changed my business. And I said, that's why I gave it to you.
That's awesome. Brandon, I have to tell you, we are amazed how you can work as hard as you do, being the leader that you are, speaking at conference, locally, globally, and still making your family a priority, the highest priority in your life. What advice would you give to an entrepreneur that is struggling to find that balance between work and life? So can you hear me well?
Yeah, you broke up there for a minute.
Okay, well,
you broke up there for a minute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me repeat the question once again. So we're
I
at a
got the
mess.
question.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think you and I are on a major delay now, but the question is about balance. And, balance, it's just, the word balance is not the right word. I know it's what we default to because it's the word that everybody else uses, and it's the best thing that we have for describing the need to focus on multiple things at the same time. One of the hard truths is that we make time for what is important to us. If someone called and said, your mother just got in a car accident, she's going to be dead in the next 4 hours, we would drop everything that was important to us and we would go and we would care for that. If somebody said, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million to go spend on bestbuy.com, but you have to spend it in the next hour, we would drop everything that was important to us and we would go and we'd go online and we'd spend all that money. When I started PHOS, I said to myself that I would never let PHOS threaten my marriage and my parenting, that I would close the doors of my business before I ever let that affect my family. And it's taken sacrifices on PHOS's behalf. We could be a much larger business than we are right now if I gave myself 150% to it, but I decide to only give myself 100% to it when I'm there, and I give myself 100% to my family when I'm there. I think when people are like, yeah, I got to work like 60, 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week just to make my business work, like, something's wrong with your business and your life if that's true. It's not a sign of that you're a great leader. It's a sign that something's broken. You are not successful because you do a lot of things. It gets back to the idea of redefining success. How do you define success? I don't define success by PHOS being a $50 million agency. I define success by PHOS being faithful to do what it does so it can provide for its people and my family. If it does that, then it's in a great, healthy place. We get to go to cool, fun things together. I don't have to freak out about being away for a week or 2 weeks while I go spend time with my two sons or my wife. We've been married for 14 years. We have 2 boys, 12 and 8. My wife and I are both scuba divers. We dive caverns together, and we dive in the ocean together. And this is one of the most embarrassing pictures you could have chosen, so I appreciate that, Elliot.
I'm sorry, brother. I had to do it. Production made me do it.
Good.
So when we talk about family, we talk about purpose, we talk about the meaning of life. I mean, obviously, that's the meaning of life for you. That's your why. Your family, and you basically you are sharing a message of you never ever put your work or your goals or whatever it is before your family, because and then I mean, family is gonna suffer as well. So what would you say to that is we have people, we have entrepreneurs, out there that they still do that. They make all sacrifices, including family, to reach their goals. What would you say about this?
Yeah. When business is your God, you will sacrifice anything at the altar of that form of success to make that happen. That's not acceptable. That's not an option. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. You were created for a greater purpose. What you should be looking for in your life is that blend between what do I love to do, but what provides enough. I think ambition is such an interesting thing. It's not an evil thing to be ambitious, but the question is, to what end are you ambitious? Jack Welch, all these other super famous rich people. Like, I don't want to be the guy at the end of my life who regrets living. Like, that's the classic story. I saw Hamilton recently. Hamilton on Disney Plus, absolutely life-changing. One of the most creative things I've ever seen in my entire life. I was listening to the soundtrack again this morning, and I wrote this down in my journal. See if I can find it here. At one point, he's singing, and his wife is singing, and she's basically asking him, "Will you stay? Will you not go back to work? Will you stay? What would it be like if I was enough for your life?" And I wrote down in my journal, what would Hamilton's life been like if he would have listened to his wife in that moment? Because he goes on to commit adultery. His son winds up dying. He loses his wife's trust. What would it be like if we said, this is enough? Because satisfaction is an infinitely long runway to chase after.
Wow, that's awesome. And Brando, I gotta tell you, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, it's very quick, couple seconds. We're gonna go to the game of the day, and then we're gonna continue with our conversation. But I gotta ask you, are you ready? Because you were complaining about the scuba diving picture, so I gotta ask you, you are ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready. I trust you, man. I'm ready.
All right, so right now we're gonna go with the game of the day when you get to select one of these four choices. So what would you change in the world? You get to say one of these options and why. Emotional situation, economic situation, political situation, or mindset.
I'm drawn to mindset.
Why? Why mindset?
Second option would have been emotional. Economic and political don't push the needle enough for me. I don't feel as much of an emotional attachment over the need to change those things in the world. There's greater mindset issues that I would change in the world. I would change people's mindset about what absolute truth is. The idea that something is always absolutely true. It's a disappointing thing when people don't believe that anything in the world is absolutely true. That my mindset is I can make true whatever I want. That is an unhealthy mindset to live by that results in no form of morals or consistent ethics or a need to operate or behave in a certain way consistently because there's no truth that persuades that I must do it that way. So I would change mindset.
That is awesome. Yeah, I am with you, brother. I am with you. You see, it is easy, right? What's easy? Very easy. All right. So I would like to talk about an event that is very important that you have coming up in August 6th. Is that right?
August 6th and 7th, Thursday, Friday.
Tell us about this event.
So I mentioned that over the past few years, I have had the opportunity to be a part of the best leadership events in all of this city. I've partnered with Jill Nash for many years to put on LeaderCast Gainesville. Last year, I mentioned I joined a group called C12, and at this group, they were pushing an event that I had never heard of called the Global Leadership Summit. I looked more into it. I didn't get to participate in last year's, but I looked more into it, and the leaders, the speakers that were coming to this event were some of the most impactful people, mentors to me over years and years and years of my leadership at PHOS. And so I was at one of the C12 meetings early this year, and my C12 coach mentioned that the Global Leadership Summit is looking for a host for Gainesville. It's a simulcast out of Chicago. They have 450,000 people who show up from 500 different locations all around the world. And I was in the room at the time with Craig Wilburn from Keller Williams Team Dynamo, and he and I did one of these. We looked right at each other, and we were like, hey, we got to make this happen. And we decided, hey, we want to be that host site for Gainesville. So the Global Leadership Summit, it's a 2-day leadership conference. This year specifically about like, how do we get back on track? In the wake of everything that's happened, how do we get our leadership back on track? The cost, there's different coupons and things like that available. I'll give out one in a moment, but the cost of this is somewhere between like $100 and $130, which is absolutely phenomenal. You cannot get more content for that price, a better return on investment from any conference in the area. So we chose to host it because people like Marcus Buckingham, Craig Grichelle, Michael Todd, Paula Ferris, Albert Tate, Nona Jones, TD Jakes, the athlete Kaka is going to be there this year to speak. It's going to be an incredible amount of content packed in 2 days.
I'm getting fired up here. I'm getting fired up. Come on, let's go.
I'm really excited because this year they've kind of like thrown in some surprises along the way. We were just told last week President George W. Bush is going to be at this year's conference speaking on leadership.
Oh, wow.
Talk about legacy. Talk about how do I learn from people who have been through the fire? How do I learn from the wisdom of people who have walked before me? I also just got notified last week that John Maxwell, Dr. Henry Cloud, Patrick Lencioni, Horst Schultz from the Ritz-Carlton is going to be here to speak about leadership on top of the amazing 15 plus faculty that are already there. It's going to be 2 phenomenal days at an incredibly low price to be able to invest leadership not only into yourself but into your team as well. Every single year since our inception, we closed down the studio for at least a full day, now 2 full days, to invest leadership, not just into the leadership team. The whole team comes every year.
Wow.
We shut down and we said, hey, leadership's one of our core values. It's not just for these people at the top of the organizational chart. It's for everyone. And this is going to be 2 incredible days for our team.
And why do you think it's very important for companies to do this, what you're doing, to bring your whole team to events, like this, to this type of event? This is a level, we're talking about the best of the best leaders, not only in the United States, but probably in the world. Why do you think it's so important for companies to do this?
One of the things that we talk about in regards to culture is a high-performance team. A high-performance team is a highly motivated team of people who think like entrepreneurs. They think like business owners. They think like, if this was my own, this is how I would manage it, therefore I'm going to go and do that. That is a mindset that comes from a mindset built around leadership. The cultures that we want to create require us to invest in leadership. It's a sad thing when the only people who get that training are the CEOs and the CFOs and the CMOs and the COOs and the executive suite and the mid-level managers, and we don't ever invest leadership into the people who daily lead our business. It's critical for a cross-team cultural impact.
Brandon, could you share with us one thing that you wish you have known at the very, very beginning of PHOS, and why?
Earlier this year, the chamber, I'm really thankful for the timing of how this worked. Back in January, I spoke for the Gainesville Area Chamber of Commerce at one of their lunch and learns. My talk was entitled "The Horror and Triumph of Small Business Ownership." And I'm so grateful that I got to share it then, because 2 months after that, we walked into COVID. And we realized, like, if there was one thing that I would have known better at the start of PHOS, is that leadership is hard. We talk a lot about leadership. We want to raise up leaders worth following. We want to invest leadership into not just our people, but our community and into the world. Leadership is very difficult. It is hard. It breaks your heart while you gain it back through impact and influence. It's an important lesson that we often only learn by experience, and we need to be more forthright about telling the story that business leadership is a horror and a great triumph in our life.
That is awesome. And by the way, this quote that I said, actually, I mentioned at the beginning, if you are just tuning in, behind every powerful brand, and there is a powerful vision that was stolen from your website. So, man, it's been such a tremendous privilege to have you here at Morning Coffee with Elio. So let me ask you, what is next for PHOS?
Our 2025 vision is that we grow from the 16 team members that we have right now to 25 team members, supporting 25 children through Compassion International helping to rescue them from extreme poverty, and then working with clients in 25 states. So 25 team members, 25 kids, 25 states. That's part of our vision. A big part of that is the global component of that. We've decided as an agency that moving forward, every single retained client that we bring on from a monthly recurring revenue perspective, we're going to go and sponsor another child through Compassion International. So our impact ability for sponsoring children all over the world and helping to rescue them from extreme poverty, from this morning I couldn't even purchase a rotten apple in the market, to now my basic needs are all covered and I have a church that I can go to and a community I can invest myself into and people who love me and surround me. We just multiplied our efforts in that way. So the future of PHOS is growth, people-wise, client-wise, and with our impact in our global community and our local community.
Awesome. How people can reach out to PHOS? What is the best way to reach out in case people would like to be part of these fantastic events, causes, supporting nonprofit organizations? How people can reach out to you?
Yeah. Well, I've mentioned a lot today. If you're interested in going to the Global Leadership Summit, I have the best referral code that you can find out there. So if you go to glsgnv.com, and you use the code LEAD2020, you can actually sign up for the conference at $99, which is just crazy low. So glsgnv.com, using the code LEAD2020. For getting involved with PHOS, phoscreative.com. PHOS Creative is our handle on Instagram and Facebook as well. You could reach out at hello@phoscreative.com. If you had an interest in getting involved in Compassion International, the organization that we partner with for child sponsorship, you could sponsor a child for $38 a month and rescue them from extreme poverty, write letters to them, be a part of their life, influence them, mentor them. That's at compassion.com. And if you wanted more information on Created Gainesville, our local Gainesville organization that's working on ending sex trafficking in our city, that's createdgainesville.com as well.
That is fantastic. So I would like to say that I am beyond honored. I've been learning a lot about all the events, organizations that you are part of. So before we go, what would you say to our Morning Coffee community, to our business community, our Gator Nation that is watching you? What would you say to them?
One of the most impactful leaders that I've gotten to experience over the past 7.5 years is Andy Stanley. I would highly commend all of his materials to you. He said this, and I would end with this quote here: "Your glory is too small a thing to live for." Your glory is too small a thing to live for. So find out what the right answer is.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is right there. The amazing Brandon West, with PHOS Creative. Brandon, thank you so much, brother, for what you're doing, making a difference, impacting the world. Not only Gator Nation, but impacting, all over the place. That's awesome, brother. Let us know how we can be part of everything that you're doing. And if you are watching right now, let me tell you something. This is a show that you need to share with your friends, with your family. Like it and share right now. Make sure you are leaving your comments, and you are also leaving your question for Brandon, and we're gonna meet you down there at the comments, okay? So this is Elio Piedra. You're watching and enjoying Morning Coffee with Elio, and we are gonna see you guys next time. Guys, thank you very much for watching Morning Coffee with Elio. Yes, we're really looking forward to seeing you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Do not forget to like us and follow us on Facebook and become part of the Morning Coffee with Elio community. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and live full.